My dear students, as we are discussing about competency-based questions and we are talking about the techniques of questioning in the different stages of interview, the next stage is the introductory stage. The introductory stage represents just 3% of an interview and is intended to accomplish two key objectives. What are those two key objectives? The first objective, to help still nervous applicants feel at ease. There are some of the applicants which cannot be settled during the rapport building stage. So you have to help still nervous applicants feel at ease, and you have to ask a very generic kind of question about their previous job or about their current job. And number two, to allow the interviewer to start assessing their job suitability, because this is the first stage which can help you to determine the suitability of the candidates in that particular job by assessing generic skills such as communication, verbal communication, and organizational skills. These objectives are best accomplished by posing 2 to 3 open-ended questions. Keep in mind the question must need to be open-ended, that you would get some kind of phrases or answers from the candidate. Not yes-no question, not close-ended question. This is most effective type of question to ask at this stage because the applicant will begin talking. If you would ask close-ended question, which would give you an answer of yes or no, obviously you would not be able to assess the candidate's suitability to the organization. So ask open-ended question. Introductory questions should be about topics which are very much familiar to the applicant. Don't ask questions which are unfamiliar, or don't ask questions about some critical area of the job. Just ask very general, familiar questions, so as not to create undue pressure, because this is an introductory stage, and if you would create pressure to the candidates, obviously he would get nervous and he would not be able to answer you in an effective manner. So keep the pressure less and broad enough to generate additional questions by you. So the question need to be the open-ended, so you can get broad answers, and from those answers you can ask further questions. One question that satisfies both of these criteria which we have mentioned earlier, that question can be, would you please describe your activities during a typical day at your current job? So you are asking about the day-to-day activities of the person in his current job in a typical day. So the answers can be very broader. It helps to relax the still nervous applicant by allowing him to discuss a familiar subject, because it is really a very familiar subject, because you are just asking about the day-to-day routine of a person in a typical day in his current job. So it's very easy to answer, I think. Then the question is open-ended in nature, which encourages the implied applicant to talk, giving you an opportunity to assess verbal and organizational skills, because this is the best way to assess the candidate's verbal communication skills and organizational skills and some of the other generic skills. And the question is not foolproof, however. An applicant could respond by saying, well, that's kind of hard to do. No day is really typical day. Then what you would do? You would ask further question. You would make the previous question more specific in your wording to help the applicant get started. So you don't need to give up. You need to ask further questions. Once the applicant begins to outline specific tasks, you can interject. Do you do that every day? So by breaking the question down and encouraging the applicant to talk. So you can break your one major question into the smaller question just to encourage the applicant to talk more. Other effective open-ended questions to start off will include the following. Can you give me an overview of your past experience with the benefits administration? So you are just asking about the overview of his experience. Number two, why don't we begin with your current job? Would you describe your involvement in the day-to-day operation of your department? So you are asking the involvement of the person in his department day-to-day activities. So this is also a very generic general question which may help to assess the generic skills of the candidates. And number third, in your job as a public relation manager, how do you go about preparing press releases? So this is also a very general duty of the person as a public relation manager. So he can answer in a wonderful way in the form of an open-ended answer. So these are the few questions which can be asked at the introductory stage, but you should not limit yourself to such questions. You can make questions according to the persons and according to the person's current job and the previous jobs.